What's up, everybody? How we doing? Your boy Chuck is back. I might sound a little off. Honestly, I'm sick. I'm under the weather, but that's the perfect time to curl up with a good book. And that is what I did this week. Um, I read J.R. I want to make sure. Okay, J.R. Harris. The funny thing is that I know him. Obviously, I've started to know a lot of these comic creators. So, but oftentimes our names that we go by in our everyday, like Facebook and all that kind of stuff, it's not necessarily what we go by as a pen name. So I want to make sure I was getting this right because I know him by his real name. But this is J.R. Harris, and he's done the story. Henry Graves, The Story of a Piano. If you just heard The Story of a Piano, you'd be like, okay, well, how's that even a comic? But Henry Graves is a lot more than that, and I was really glad to be able to talk to JR about it. First off, really good dude. I met him because he's working on on the art for a book that I'm editing, and it's really cool. It's very science fiction-y, which is funny because first off, the science fiction work that he's doing is amazing. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. And then I see this from him, and it's so not science fiction. It's very like detective noir, which basically is what the story is. It has like an early turn of the century. We can't really say that as well anymore, can we? I remember in the 90s, we're like, oh, turn of the century. And it'd be like, you knew. Now it's like, turn of what century? Turn of the 20th century. When we were turning from the 19th century to the 20th. So I don't know. I envision it as the early 1900s, but having a conversation with him, he was really cool. He was like, hey man, I don't even know if this is on Earth. Like, and that was kind of the cool thing, is that there is no absolute where you are. Cause I was like, I envision like this Victorian America. And he's like, yeah, but I never said it was even America. And I'm like, oh shit, you didn't, did you? When I read this, it had a real like Sherlock Holmes vibe, but definitely not the same character at all. It just the feel of the story and whatnot. It's funny because, like I said, we've spoken a lot, and he has some really cool epic story ideas. This was not an epic story. Now, if you equate epic with good, then you might have an issue. Because I don't, and I don't think it's healthy to, because everything shouldn't be epic and huge. And if I were to put it, say, in like a Star Wars, if I were to say in a Star Wars way, Star Wars is epic. Everything in there is epic and huge and over dramatic and all that kind of stuff. And then if you check out The Mandalorian, everything's a lot more, like surface level. So this is a much more surface level. It's a mystery all by itself. It's basically the mystery of how a woman shows up bloodied at the police precinct, and all she knows is that she was trapped in a dungeon in her own mansion that she didn't know existed. She had no idea who put her in there, and her husband had died a week or two earlier. So that's neat. That's a really cool. I like that because it's one of those stories where like I said, it feels like a Sherlock Holmes story, because Sherlock Holmes, like if you've ever read any of his stuff, I loved his stuff as a kid. And then of course, when the Benedict Cumberbatch TV show came out, I enjoyed it a lot. And it'd be like, you would hear someone give him a story, and he's like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. Like that's a nothing. So if you said, oh, a woman shows up bloodied at the precinct, so what? Yeah, but she was trapped in a dungeon in her own house, and she didn't know that there was one. You're like, wait, what? How'd she get out? She doesn't know how she got out. She can't find the dungeon anywhere. No one can. Okay, cool. How'd she get in there? Who hurt her? All that kind of stuff. What's going on? So it's really cool. There's definitely a magical aura to this. There's definitely more of a magic. The funny thing is, if you know your Sherlock Holmes, there was some magic, but usually you ended up finding out that the magical wasn't actually magical. But in this case, the magical is magical. And so, or at least, paranormal, So, very neat. Really love the story a lot. Yeah, there were some cool characters too. Henry, we don't get an awful lot about Henry himself. You do, obviously know that he's incredibly skilled and he has some really cool tools. And he's kind of like, I don't want to call him a Sherlock Holmes meets Batman, but kind of in that regard. The only difference is that Batman always seems to have the right tools for every job. You know what I mean? Like, it's as though he knows what's going to happen. And he's like, oh, well, it just so happened that I have my frost repellent. And it's like, well, you didn't know that Mr. or Dr. Freeze or whatever Mr. Freeze was going to be there. So why the hell did you bring that? Oh, I just thought. The difference is that the tools that he brings are always the tools that he brings. But there's a certain, they have a multiple use. So they're very interesting in that way. And then, of course, he has this woman who he works with. Her name is Avery, and she's kind of that connection to the paranormal. Again, you don't quite know what she is. It feels like a voodoo priestess meets seer tarot kind of thing going on. Like I said, very metaphysical, very magical, very cool stuff. If all that stuff kind of gets into you and you enjoy that kind of stuff, you're going to dig this book. It's really cool. Like I said, I spoke with JR, and he has a lot more stories, a lot more Henry Graves stories that he wants to bring out. And from the little bit that we got to talk about, there's some really cool stuff here. So if this is something that you're interested in, and first off, JR's artwork is gorgeous. Like, I love what he's doing. I love the kind of work that he does. He has solid paneling and everything. It's colored, and yet it still has that noir-y, dark kind of look to it. It's a little more simple lines. It's not like super realistic, which I enjoy. It's almost like it's almost cartoony, but it's not cartoony. I'm not, you guys know me. My background is not necessarily art, but it has its own look, and I really enjoy it. And again, it does have this look of what it was. And of course, things get very colorful at times. I don't want to show you that page too long, because that could be it shows some of the magic. So yeah. Anyways, so that's what that is. Henry Graves, The Story of a Piano by J.R. Harris. He did everything in there. From colors, pencils, lettering, all the way through. He did all of it. And, man, it looks good. It's a really cool book. So, if you guys are interested in this, check out J.R. Harris online. Find his stuff. I believe this, well, you can find it on JR Comic Art. That's where you can find it. Or jrcomicart.com. So, like I said, if this is the kind of stuff that you enjoy, then I think this is the place to get it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I give it 2 thumbs up. So, cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys, as I had this really cool book to be able to enjoy on my sick day. And, yeah, man, I feel a little better just being able to experience it and to be able to talk about it. And I'm sure that the meds and the soup helped a lot. Anyways, you guys have a good one, and peace, love, and comics.